Hello, this is Deadeye, and today I'm going to be doing some testing for the Mud List made by Sorcerous MTG. This is a prison deck using Tron lands in order to accelerate your mana and be able to power out powerful cards such as Karn the Great Creator and Mystic Forge, both of them allowing you to quickly take over the game with value and prison pieces such as Chalice the Void, Ensnaring Bridge, Spellskite, Sorcerous Spyglass, and a few other ones, in addition to all of our sideboard wish cards. So I'm going to be making a few changes to the deck today, and testing out whether Serum Powder is going to do a little bit better over Mind Stone. I find that Serum Powder is very beneficial because despite us being a Tron deck, we do not mulligan as well as Mono Green Tron or Eldrazi Tron because we're looking to have a strong mana base as well as multiple pieces of interaction. The other two changes that I'm going to be testing out are Sorcerous Spyglass in the main and Elixir of Immortality in the main. I find that Elixir of Immortality is very good against aggro and mill, although I haven't had to deal with mill too often. So the other card that this slot is taking up is Shadow Spear. So I'm going to be testing Elixir of Immortality, which is less reliant on having creatures on the board in order to get value out of it. And then Sorcerous Spyglass is another Pithing Needle effect. We're going to see how that ends up going. I find that any needle effect is either borderline useless or wins you the game in a lot of these matches. So we'll see how a 2-mana version of the card that cannot be chaliced, or does not usually get chaliced, will perform. Otherwise, I'm just going to run it through League and we'll see how it goes. I'll see you soon. Okay, we're here in Match 1, Game 1, and we have won the die roll. I'm going to choose to play first. And this hand is looking somewhat medium. So my first thought is, do I have any interaction? I do in the form of Spellskite and Karn later on in the game, provided I get to draw 2 lands. We do have Welding Jar to protect our Spellskite, and then our Elixir of Immortality is going to be good against specifically aggro and mill. So if our opponent is not aggro or mill, then it's going to be fairly worthless. I don't think I like this hand, just because we don't have a very strong land base, and our interaction is also looking weak, so I'm going to mulligan. Okay, this hand is looking about the same. That being said, we do have an Urza Saga, which is another form of interaction. So we have actually 3 forms of interaction and Welding Jar to protect it. And then as well as a Karn that we may or may not be able to play later on in the game. So I think I'm going to keep this hand and I'm going to bottom a Karn. Because having a duplicate is not going to be relevant, most likely, in this game. So I'm going to play out Relic. As well as my Welding Jar. And ship it to the opponent. Okay, opponent cracks Wooded Foothills. This could be a number of different decks. Stomping Ground. Ignoble Hierarch. So this is looking to be a Jund type list, most likely. So I'm going to go to their end step, and I'm going to make them exile the Wooded Foothills. This would be good into a card such as Wrenn and 6. Although I would be doing this regardless of whether Wrenn and 6 would be a card. I'm going to play out my Urza Saga, and now I do have a decision to make. Either I can play out my Ratchet Bomb and tick it up to hopefully be able to answer a 1-drop of theirs, or if they play Tarmogoyf or a 3-drop, I may be able to get it up to that. Or I can save the mana to Relic of Progenitus to draw a card, because I do know that they are not going to be much of a graveyard-centric deck. So I may be willing to drop the Relic in order to make sure I get that land drop for next turn to get my Urza Saga online. I think that's what I'm going to do. The downside of not drawing a land is just so high that I don't want to risk it. So this is Jund. Jund is an interesting matchup because they have a lot of ways of interacting with us, but they also have a lot of cards that interact poorly or line up poorly with our prison pieces. Urza Saga is a good example. They don't have enough removal to be able to deal with multiple Urza Sagas. Opponent Inquisitions, getting rid of Ratchet Bomb. This is probably going to take Karn. Opponent is just trying to strip us of our pieces. I'm going to crack my Relic. Expedition Map, that's not a bad draw. And no land. Okay. So once again, we are left with a few decisions. If I Expedition Map, I can, if I do not draw land next turn, I can crack it for the 3rd land using the Urza Saga mana that we float. Although we would most likely be tutoring an Expedition Map anyway with Urza Saga. So I think I'm going to play Spellskite here and start setting up some protection for our pieces that we will hopefully be able to play soon. It may have been correct to play the Expedition Map and then use the Urza Saga search to get Pithing Needle for Liliana of the Veil, which is a common card in Jund. That may have been a better choice. We'll see how it plays out. Fatal Pushes. Let's see. So there aren't too many exile effects. Or that Jund plays. So Spellskite versus Welding Jar. Welding Jar is just about as relevant. So I think I'm going to let this resolve, because that way I won't have to pay 2 life every time I redirect. Kroxa. I am most likely going to be discarding Expedition Map, because once I get this land, I want to be able to ramp at least a little bit. Also, it is noteworthy that if this were a Mind Stone, I would be in a much better position at the moment. Draw. Mystic Forge is not what we're looking for. I'm going to float mana. Grabbing Expedition Map. Crack. Grab Urza's Tower. And we're going to pass the turn and pray. Fortunately, opponent is also on 2 lands. Although they do have the Ignoble Hierarch, so they do have 3 available mana. But as far as I'm aware, one of the only cards in their deck that costs 4 would be Kroxa, and they also do not have the cards in the graveyard in order to escape it. So that's not a huge concern at the moment. Kulligan's Command, making us discard. I'm going to discard Mystic Forge because once again the Serum Powder is very relevant at ramping us. Although, that being said, if we draw a power plant, we will have as much mana as we need. So maybe that would have been the correct option. Once again, no land. I'm going to Spellskite, and we are in the same position we were quite a few turns ago, except now they have a Kroxa in the graveyard. So Liliana. So this is where that play where I Pithing Needle for Liliana would have come up. Sack. Yep. I don't believe I could regenerate that because it's a sacrifice effect. One step. Urza Saga. Okay. We're in business. I'm going to play out my Serum Powder. Running 6, yep. No lands to return. The only concern would be Ren's ultimate here. Being able to Kulligan's Command on command would be backbreaking for us. So hopefully we'll be able to shut that off very soon. Step. Come on. Pithing Needle. That's a great, great draw. And I also have enough land to be able to Urza Saga. Now the real question here is, do I want to turn off Renin 6 or do I want to turn off Liliana? Liliana at the moment is only hurting the opponent because we are Hellbent. And Renin 6 is also closer to getting to the ultimate. I think that the choice here would be Renin 6. I believe that is correct, because we are also threatening Liliana with our Construct. Otherwise, with 4 artifacts, we would also be threatening Ren, but if Ren upticks, then we are not. So we're going to pass it off and look to Urza Saga, make a Construct in their end step. Opponent's looking to play something. Bloodbraid Elf as another fairly strong threat. Inquisition. Not very relevant at the moment against us. Opponent should not be attacking with Bloodbraid Elf unless they want it to die. Oh, well, Exalted. Well, that's a good question. I do believe I'm supposed to trade a Welding Jar for the Bloodbraid Elf, because that will allow us to kill the Liliana and they do not have a threat. I think I'm going to trade. Now, something to note is Kulligan's Command is going to hurt a lot worse. I'm thinking I may actually take the damage here. Because this Welding Jar is providing a lot of value. So I'm actually going to take it and then look to get the Liliana on the backswing. They have no mana up, so hopefully we'll be able to get it. Spellskite is a good draw. I'm going to make another Construct. We have only one Pithing Needle effect in the deck. So now we are looking to get either another land or another Welding Jar. Elixir of Immortality here is probably not going to be relevant. I'm going to get Expedition Map, because if we draw something such as Karn or Mystic Forge, we're going to want a Tron land, and if not, we will want another Urza Saga in order to continue our pressure. So that's what I'm going to tutor up. We're going to go to combat. I'm going to kill the Liliana. Liliana will absolutely hurt our constructs at the moment. They are extremely large, and the ability to pump out so many of them at one time is extremely good. So slowing that down is going to hurt our game plan to win at the moment. It's not looking like we're going to try to lock the opponent out. If we get a bridge, we may not play it. Lightning bolts the construct. Interesting that they did that at the main phase. Lightning bolt again. So once again, we have the choice to Welding Jar it. I think this time it is correct to Welding Jar. It does leave our Pithing Needle open for some sort of 3-mana effect, or Kolaghan's Command, anything that could kill Pithing Needle. It would give them 1 turn in order to do that. But that being said, we also have 2 very large threats that could take down the Wrenn and 6. So I'm going to regenerate here. It does leave them open, or us open, to be attacked. That's another 4 damage, but I am not entirely concerned about our life total at the moment. I don't think that they're going to be able to burn us out, most likely. So, versus mine. So at this point, I am thinking we are most likely going to get Urza Saga once again, play Spellskite, and then we either have the option of attacking their life total, bringing them down to 7 if they don't block, and actually, yeah, 1 if they do, or don't. Sorry, oh my goodness, 1 if they don't block, 7 if they do, which is quite valuable at the moment, especially since we have Wrenn and 6 lockdown. I think that may be the play. The reason being that our Wrenn and 6 buddy here, who has been Pithing Needled, he's not going to be able to Kolaghan's Command the Pithing Needle in order to get value. And a small mistake here is I now have to play Urza's Mine. In order to crack Expedition Map. I'm not going to be able to get my Urza Saga this turn. That is okay. I do think that this is a more relevant play to pressure their life total so heavily. And I am going to play Urza's Mine and pass the turn. We have the option of not cracking Expedition Map, although as of the moment it's looking like we would want to do that. Seasoned Pyromancer. Okay. They now have 2 cards. Combat. We'll see if they attack. They do not. And end step. So, this is interesting. They are forced to block here. I'm thinking we crack for Urza Saga, once again. We are pressuring their life total very heavily. We only have 2 left, but I do think that we'll be able to make do with the 4 constructs that we have left. Power Plant gives us access to as much mana as we'd ever want, although currently that is not very relevant. We are going to go to combat. Opponent would have us at, if they killed the Spellskite, they would have us at, let's see, 5, 6, 4, which I don't believe is a life total worth saving blockers for. So I'm going to force them to block and see how it goes from there. And this is assuming they do have removal for Spellskite. Okay, they double block. The game is looking very heavily in our favor at the moment. We're going to pass the turn. Tarmogoyf is a good draw. Tarmogoyf is a 7/8. That is a very good draw. We're going to need to find something here. Okay. Well, we're going to play out our land. We have 2 6/6s. No, 3 6/6s actually. 2 that can attack. So I'm thinking we may pass and make a construct on their end step. If they attack us, that only leaves 1, maybe 2 blockers, which will allow us to make 2 7/7s or 3 7/7s that can attack. And if they don't have removal, then they will not have enough blockers to save them. Tarmogoyf is once again a good draw. We are forced to block, I believe. Oh, they do not attack. Okay. End step, create a create a construct. Create another construct. I do believe we have this game in the bag now. So we're going to search up a Welding Jar. Play our Serum Powder. And now we have 3 9/9s that we can attack with. So they're forced to triple block. We should be in good shape. Okay, so we went from a very poor start with very few lands to being able to come out on top. So for sideboarding against Jund, it is definitely interesting because of how much interaction they pack. Torpor Orb is not going to be very relevant. They don't have many ETBs. I do like the All is Dust. I do think that bringing in All is Dust is going to be relevant here. Let's see. Kozilek is a good beater that we may want to bring in. It is hard for them to interact with. Assassin's Trophy, I believe, is the only one that can deal with that effectively. Crucible of Worlds is a consideration. I do believe leaving it in for the Wishboard is going to be more relevant, though. And then in terms of boarding out, I think that Relic is okay. Elixir of Immortality is probably not going to be the best. I do like trimming the Chalices here. At least a few of them, if not all. I think that being able to take them off of 3 mana cards is going to be very helpful. So it may be correct to only trim 1 or 2. And then in addition to that, I'm going to trim, let's see. So we'll do 1 more Chalice. and we'll do a Ratchet Bomb. And we'll see how that goes. Okay, so for game 2, this hand is looking to be, once again, medium. We only have 1 land, as well as an expedition map. If we were able to draw into a second land, I think this hand would be okay. But I am actually going to powder this in order to keep our 7 cards. So this hand is looking much, much better. It gives us access to Tron. Nearly. We only need 1 piece. And if we play a turn 2 Urza Saga, we can start taking the constructs, or making constructs, and maybe get an expedition map to finish off Tron to use a Karn, or play a Karn. Opponent inquisitions us. They're going to take Ensnaring Bridge. That's the only valid target. That's okay. As long as they aren't able to beat us down very quickly with very aggressive threats, I think we'll be alright. So I'm going to play an Urza's Mine. Tarmogoyf. Okay. That is a very aggressive threat. It's a 3/4 at the moment. So we're going to Urza Saga. Welding Jar. And Ratchet Bomb. Now Ratchet Bomb does answer Tarmogoyf, although it is a few turns slow. Interesting. Well, this is a new addition, a very unusual card. So we are going to have to find a Relic of Progenitus at some point. That may be what our Urza Saga grabs. In addition to each opponent, Witchbane Orb would not help with this. There's a Saga trigger. I am thinking that we tick up Ratchet Bomb, and Urza Saga prevents us from getting full value out of all of our sagas, so I'm actually not going to play out the second one. Using it to ramp. Bloodbraid Elf, okay. Into a Tarmogoyf. So we are going to most likely have to crack a Ratchet Bomb next turn. Now the question is, do I want to trade a Welding Jar for a Construct? I do believe that that's going to be what we're going to do. We are going to want our Constructs to be fairly bulky, and we want to have a decent amount of them in order to protect our Karn that we are looking to play here soon. This is an interesting card. We may run into trouble here. Okay, it does not attack with Bloodbraid Elf, doesn't give us the option. I'm okay with it. So we could play Karn here. I'm actually going to make a Construct, though. So Relic of Progenitus is relevant. Well, Welding Jar would also be relevant. I think I'm going to take the Relic. I'm going to use it on opponent now. Going to play another Urza Saga. Get that ready for next turn. And now that we have Ratchet Bomb, we are able to stonewall their Tarmogoyfs. And if they ever decide to attack, we will crack the Ratchet Bomb and be able to hit them fairly hard on the backswing. That is the plan. Okay, shocks us for 2. This card is getting a lot of value. Liliana of the Veil. It's most likely going to make each player sacrifice, in which case I should most likely Ratchet Bomb in response, forcing them to choose between either Clothis or Bloodbraid Elf, which is not a very difficult decision, and then we can kill the Lily. Oh, it's target player. Whoops. That's okay. Opponent is giving us a trade. I am glad to take it because Welding Jar. This allows us to kill Liliana if they do not have removal. So we will see if they do. Pithing Needle allows us to no longer worry about Liliana and go for the beats if we would like. Although I do think that naming Renin 6 and hitting the Lily, or naming Lily while also killing it as well, would still be relevant. So I'm going to make a token. Urza's Tower. Pithing Needle. Opponent cracks in response. I'm going to name Liliana of the Veil, because once again, playing a Lily is... Do we kill the Lily? I do not think so, because not only would they have to Culligan's command our Pithing Needle, or remove our Pithing Needle in some fashion, they would also have to tick up Lily, which is going to hurt them more than it's going to hurt us at the moment, in order to make a sacrifice. So they'd have to have 2 Lilianas or wait a turn. So once again, we're looking to be in a fairly strong position. Another Tarmogoyf would hurt us significantly, although if things start to go wrong, we could always Karn for Ensnaring Bridge. Although a line that I'm thinking of taking here soon is actually Karn for Crucible of Worlds in order to loop Urza Saga. Okay, exiles the Ensnaring Bridge. This does allow us to Karn for it now. We already had an Ensnaring Bridge in our wish board, but now we have 2 that may be relevant at some point in this game. Culligan's command. Nothing we weren't expecting. Lightning Bolt. Okay, we no longer have any constructs. That's okay. Once again, they Culligan's command the construct rather than the Pithing Needle, which is perfectly fine by us. Urza's Mine is not as good as Urza's Power Plant. I'm going to make a construct once again. And we're going to search up I'm going to search up a Welding Jar, or a Expedition map, in order to get Tron this turn. So I'm going to make them sack, or exile. And we're going to pass it to them and get Tron on our turn, which is going to allow us to start shooting ahead in terms of value. Something to note is Relic of Progenitus exiles itself, which allows us to find it with Karn. Bloodbraid Elf. Tarmogoyf. This is rough, unfortunately. Now, something to note is we cannot crack our Expedition map without killing our Construct if he attacks here. So in not attacking, they actually let us crack for free. So we get our Power Plant. So, yes, Power Plant. Karn. Going to Karn for something here. Yes. Crucible of Worlds is a turn slow, unfortunately, here. I do think that Ensnaring Bridge might be the way we go. And we go for the Ensnaring Bridge Possess Portal win. I think that's what I'm going to do. So we're going to play our Spellskite before we do this. Something of note is that we are running a little bit low on the clock, so getting in a win through a possessed portal is going to be a little bit slower than other options. I do believe I'm going to be exiling Relic here. I don't want them to be able to pressure our life total at the moment. And this does allow their Bloodbraid Elf to attack us, but we do have blockers. So unless they have a way of killing both of our blockers, we should be okay. Okay, opponent passes to us. This is a good sign that they are out of gas. So we're going to downtick and get a Possessed Portal immediately. We're going to look to play extremely quickly from here on out. No attacks. So opponent can no longer draw any cards, which means if they do not have something relevant now, they will never get something relevant. I am going to start exiling my lands. And I'm also going to play Karn next turn. Or discarding my lands, rather. Sacrificing. Words are difficult. Opponent passes. Assassin's Trophy. We are going to redirect. This does give us an island. Okay. Yes. Okay. Gemstone Caverns, goodbye. We're going to play our other Karn. Yes. We're going to grab Elixir of Immortality, gives us 5 life, whereas currently a where is it? Relic of Progenitus gives us a round 6 because we're exiling 3 cards, possibly more. So we're going to play it out, and we're going to use it to stop a Clothis. So we're going to do this. I am going to yield. I'm going to get rid of a tower. So they only have 2 things to shoot here. So I do believe that it's correct to Relic here, or blow Relic. I don't draw a card because of Portal. I am going to take up Ratchet Bomb here. Being able to take them off of a blocker is going to be very relevant. I actually think that at this point, I am going to want to get Elixir of Immortality. And so we're going to look to attack them for the win. So it looks like this game's locked up here. So we're going to get Elixir of Immortality. 1. We're going to crack it immediately. Going to uptick. We're going to pass priority to them. There is no real reason to keep priority up anymore. We have nothing to respond to them with. They no longer have enough damage to kill us entirely through Clothis. They may have been loose. So we're going to just uptick on nothing. Sack Ratchet Bomb. We no longer need lands. We are going to exile Possessed Portal, or sacrifice Ensnaring Bridge. Not this turn, but next turn. Which will allow us to attack through with our Possessed Portal. 2 damage Clothis again. Tick. Attack with Possessed Portal and our Construct. And it did come down to the wire, but we did get there in the end. So I think I'm going to... This is interesting. We're going to exile our Construct here. We don't want to give them any draws. So now we are going to exile this. Okay. We may have made a mistake here. Do we have lands that are exiled? We do have lands. Okay, I can pull them. Yes. We cannot pull a land. This makes our job slightly more difficult. We'll grab a Welding Jar. So I guess we're waiting on a land then. This would be a very embarrassing way to lose the match. Oh dear. Okay, good start. We're going to be able to start attacking. They bolt us. Okay. Hopefully no bolt. 2. Okay. Uptick. Go to combat. Swing. No bolt number 2. Fatal push. We're going to regenerate. Land. Tarmogoyf. No Tarmogoyf. Well, we almost punted, but we did in fact get there in the end. So that was an extremely close match because of how little time we had, but we did in fact 2-0. So I do believe the matchup in two Jund is very good. I have had a lot of success into it, and we'll move on to the next match, so I will see you then. Okay, we're back here for round number 2. We are on the play. And this hand is definitely interesting. Let's see. We have a turn 2 Spellskite with Welding Jars as backup into an Ensnaring Bridge once we draw a land. I do believe that this is a fairly good hand. This allows us to stall in order to get to our Ensnaring Bridge and hopefully be able to land enough lands to maybe Karn later in the game. I think I'm going to keep. Relic of Progenitus is extremely good against Ragavan Darcy decks, and can also be useful in a few other matchups. We'll see what we're up against. Opponent is on a Valakut deck. This matchup is, I would say it's fairly medium, as long as we can find a Karn for Witchbane Orb. Relic of Progenitus is not going to be very relevant, although Spellskite is extremely relevant in this type of matchup, as it allows us to essentially reduce the amount of damage that Valakut does from 3 to 2, which can be relevant. Opponent explores. Chalice on 0. Okay, that's fine. We aren't extremely concerned with our 0 drops. Welding Jar is the only one as of the moment, so I'm going to make them discard or exile. Okay. We drew Serum Powder. So I do believe that I'm going to start putting pressure on our opponent. They have 2 Valakuts, 5 other mountains. They need 6 lands. They're only 3 off, and they also need a Dryad, but that's not very far off. They could probably get that within 2 or 3 turns. So we're going to start trying to put a clock on them and hopefully be able to find one of our outs. It's also looking like opponent is on Bring to Light, Scape Shift, or Titan Shift, one of the two. Let's see what we draw, and we'll make a decision as to whether we're going to make another construct. I do believe we are. Putting on as much pressure as possible is going to be very relevant here. We're going to search up. We have a few different options here. Elixir of Immortality is good to force them to have more lands in play in order to combo us out with Valakut. Alternatively, we could Expedition Map, which will find Blast Zone in order to try and tick up and blow up the Dryad and turn off the combo prematurely. Although that is at least 6 mana away, so we would need 2 turns in order to do that. That being said, I do think that Elixir is going to be the better play, just because we have a 2-turn clock on them already. Go to combat. Opponent is going to have to find some way to remove our constructs through Welding Jar and Spellskite. So it's not looking good. Okay, opponent concedes. It's a good start. So, sideboarding for Titan Shift or Scape Shift. It is interesting. I do believe that it is correct to keep Witchbane Orb in the sideboard to be able to wish. And I do think that we're going to be Serum Powdering very aggressively in order to find a quick Karn or Spellskite to be able to shut them off quickly. It's not looking like we're going to have much of a sideboard, if anything. I don't believe Grafdigger's Cage turns off turns off Bring to Light. Okay. So I don't believe I'm going to be sideboarding at all here. Because Grafdigger's Cage does not in fact stop Bring to Light. All Is Dust is a little bit too slow for what our opponent is doing, and does not answer a Dryad very efficiently. The only other thing worth bringing in would possibly be Kozilek, taking out probably a Chalice. Chalice isn't extremely relevant here, so it may be worth bringing in Kozilek as well as the All Is Dust as well. Because it is better than nothing. Keep one. Okay, that's how we're going to sideboard. Our hand is not amazing, but is actually fairly good. The reason being, we get to Urza's Tower for Expedition Map, turn 1. Turn 2, we can either Expedition Map to get turn 3 Tron if we draw a Tron land, or we can Ratchet Bomb to start shutting down an early Dryad. That plus protection. We also have Serum Powder to help get out Karn. So I do believe this is going to be a keep. If this were not a keep, I would look into powdering, because even though we're getting rid of a Karn, being able to keep that 7th card is very valuable. This is once again another situation where Mind Stone would likely be better, because that would allow us to play a turn 3 Karn if we drew a land. Opponent does not have very many ways of interacting with Karn, fortunately for us. So an early one would be devastating. Okay. Third, Urza's Tower. Unfortunately, we're not playing poker, or this would be a very good hand. Most likely an Explorer. Ooh. Prismatic Ending. Most likely on the Expedition map. Okay. I am okay with it. We were not likely to get turn 3 Tron anyway, So this isn't going to slow us down. Gemstone Caverns. We are going to play Ratchet Bomb. Tick it up. Now, another prismatic ending would not be fantastic. That being said, if they are prismatic ending, they are spending all of their mana on their turn and will not be able to develop. Renin 6, okay. Yep. This may be worth blowing up with Ratchet Bomb. We will have to see. Urza Saga is a very good draw here. I'm going to prematurely put a thing onto Ratchet Bomb, Serum Powder, and say go. Teferi. We weren't looking to play at instant speed regardless, so this isn't a huge concern. Returning Urza Saga. Okay. We do still get to Karn this turn, and now they cannot interact with it with Teferi unless they have another one. So Serum Powder is being useful regardless. We're going to recast Urza Saga. Karn. And now we should consider whether we want to tick up Ratchet Bomb or keep it as is and blow up the Renin 6. So next turn, we do have our Witchbane Orb. I'm unsure whether we should tutor it now or wait. We should most likely tutor it now. The alternative is we could animate Ratchet Bomb and kill Teferi, or hit Renin 6 to get it further from ultimate. Although I do think it's better that we just get the Witchbane Orb and not worry about it. Not worry about having him be removed. So the question here is, do I want to blow up Ratchet Bomb, or do I want to tick it up? I am thinking that the only way we can lose here is through a scape shift. That being said, we do have the Witchbane Orb, and one of their outs to Witchbane Orb is Renin 6 for prismatic ending with rebound, or retrace rather. So I am thinking I'm going to blow this up. I'm going to do it on their upkeep. This also saves our Serum Powder. Next turn, we will most likely be animating our Serum Powder to kill Teferi if they do not play a blocker. And we are looking in a fairly good position But that being said, they do have a full clutch of cards. So the tides could definitely turn depending on what they've got going on. Okay. Opponent does not have very many mountains, which tells me that they most likely have a druid in hand. They haven't been searching very many up. Or dryad, rather. And they do. And they also have the Valakut. Okay. Okay. Karn goes down. Mm-hmm. Okay. Opponent will kill us if they have either Bring to Light or Scapeshift, so I am going to have to play Witchbane Orb this turn. Unfortunately, there is no real working around it. Fortunately, we do have Welding Jar. But if they have something such as Prismatic Ending, that doesn't work with Welding Jar, unfortunately, because it is an exile effect. Teferi can't bounce until next turn, in which case we can grab Pithing Needle with Urza Saga in order to name him. So I'm not entirely concerned about Teferi. This looks like a Bring to Light. Hopefully opponent doesn't make the mistake of trying to Scapeshift us. We do, in fact, have Hexproof. Okay, they get Valky. Interesting. Okay. So they're going to exile Witchbane Orb, I'm assuming. Mm-hmm. Spellskite would have been very good in this game. Unfortunately, as is, I don't think we're in a very good position to win. Mm-hmm. We drew a Ratchet Bomb. We are definitely going to be creating a token here. Okay. Okay, opponent bolts us. A fetch land is going to kill us at this point. And what do we fetch here? I do believe we're going to be fetching Pithing Needle. Elixir of Immortality is an option. It's not a fantastic option, although it does keep us alive for slightly longer. Though I don't think that's going to be our out to win. I do think that Pithing Needle is the card. And we are going to most likely name Tybalt and force our opponent to kill Teferi in order to bounce the Pithing Needle or the Construct. I'm trying to put them in a hard position. This is Cosmic Imposter. Okay. And I also am going to Ratchet Bomb just to get it started. I don't think that Serum Powder is going to be very relevant. Okay. I draw a card. Bounce Pithing Needle, as we expected. They do get to see 3 cards, unfortunately. Dryad is not one of their outs, although Expedition Map would be, because they can fetch a... or they can grab a fetch land to kill us. So we're going to go into game 3. Did I like the sideboarding here? All Is Dust is looking much better now that we know that they are playing Tybalt and other Planeswalkers. That being said, I still don't think I like the Torpor Orbs. Grafdigger's Cage would not work with Tybalt either. So I am still liking the way that I have boarded. Crucible of Worlds is still fairly good. I am still unsure about whether it should be in the main or in the sideboard for another Chalice. Being able to get up to 10 mana and Chalice for 5 would be very helpful, or Chalice for 4. Although getting it early isn't helpful in the slightest. So I think I'm going to keep it like this. We're going to play it and see how it goes. We'd like to be on the play. This hand is not great. We're going to mulligan. This hand is interesting, to say the least. We nearly have Tron. We have Spellskite. But we don't have any plan. I think I'm going to powder this because we do not have a game plan. And that is a big concern with this deck, is having all the mana in the world but no game plan. I'm going to put most likely Spellskite on the bottom. Spellskite is the one card that is going to save us. Either that or Urza's Power Plant. Just to get 3 of each Tron land. Yeah, I'm going to do Power Plant. So I could Serum Powder this as well. Get these out of the way, draw another 6. Although, I'm not liking this hand very much. I don't want to get rid of a Karn and another Spellskite. I'm going to mulligan like normal. And this is a keepable hand. 2 cards on the bottom. We're going to take Ensnaring Bridge and Mystic Forge. Put those on the bottom. We did get Natural Tron. This hand is looking fairly strong, all things considered. Despite being a Multi 5, Mystic Forge is going to allow us to gain our card advantage back. And Spellskite is our best form of interaction against our opponent. We might save the Spellskite. because they could Prismatic Ending it immediately. That being said, if they're going to Prismatic Ending, they're going to do it anyway. I do think we just jam it. And this next turn we get Tron regardless. Yep, gets a Triome. Does not get a Triome. Interesting. That must mean they have it in hand. Explore. Or Prismatic Ending. Yep. Like I said, they were going to do it regardless, so I'm not too worried about it. We do get Tron. We get Karn. That's going to be castable next turn. I'm going to Sorcerous Spyglass. Let's see what they've got going on. So they have a Fracturing Gust. Of course, that's no good. They did have the Triome in hand, although I do believe they have a Ketria as well that they could have fetched. So it's a little bit curious there. So this hand is looking very strong against us. Dryad next turn is very good. I'm thinking of naming one of three things. Either Wooded Foothills to slow them down, although they also have 2 lands in hand, 3 lands otherwise. 2 of them are tapped, though. I don't think that that's going to be the relevant play. The other options that we have are naming Tybalt for their alternative Bring to Light option, or we could name Teferi. I do believe that Teferi is the right play because it's going to be their easiest way. I do believe it's Time Raveler. I'm going to double check. Yes. I'm going to name Teferi Time Raveler. And we're going to pass with the ability to play Karn next turn. Our hand and our plays are looking extremely strong at the moment. Opponent is going to Dryad into most likely Wooded Foothills, or rather Triome or Valakut. You're going to use Wooded Foothills. They may shock as well. They do shock. Dryad. Yep. No surprises. Valakut. So they now have a Wooded Foothills, Triome, Fracturing Gust, and Mystery card in hand. Let's take a look at what cards we want. Pithing Needle is very strong here. View sideboard. Okay. So, Witchbane Orb is probably not going to be necessary quite yet. That being said, they do get to 5 mana next turn. So we are kind of in a pinch. We do have a few options here. So we can play our Karn. We can uptick as a blocker. And then we can Welding Jar the Mystic Forge to keep ours once they try to Fracturing Gust. But that does leave Karn open to being killed by the Valakut. I think that Karn is going to die regardless. I think I'm only going to be able to get one look or one pull out of him. So it is looking like I'm going to want Witchbane Orb then. Opponent's main win con at the moment is Witchbane Orb. Alternatively, we could get Possessed Portal. and try and break parity with Mystic Forge. So if we grab Possessed Portal, they Fracturing Gust, we Welding Jar Mystic Forge, next turn play Possessed Portal, and they have nothing to be able to kill us. They have 9 damage, possibly 16. Or 15, rather. That may be the play. So we are going to do that, I think. So let's do this. Going to minus Karn. Yes. Going to grab Possessed Portal. Land for turn. I am going to play this Pithing Needle. And the reason is in order to... we'll do Wooded Foothills. This is to force them to Fracturing Gust. We are giving them no option but to Fracturing Gust us. Because we want them to. Because we do know that if we Fracturing Gust, or if they Fracturing Gust, we will most likely win this game. Okay, opponent drew still a mystery card. So they did play the Wooded Foothills. They do get to bolt. They're going to bolt us. Okay, interesting. This is telegraphing the Fracturing Gust then. Or Bring to Light. That could also be an option. They may have drawn it. They did draw the Bring to Light. Are we dead? Well, there's nothing we can really do to interact with them at the moment. So they did Scape Shift. I do think we're dead. We are very dead. Okay. All right, and then I will see you in round 3 then. Welcome back. We are in match number 3. We are on the play once again. This hand is looking like a classic Tron hand with Chalice and Spellskite as a backup. I am absolutely going to keep. Unfortunately, last game, we did play Tur Outs, but our opponent drew the card they needed to win. That's how it goes sometimes. Power Plant. Okay. Our opponent is on Living End. This is a fantastic matchup for us, and we have everything in our hands that we need in order to be able to beat them. We have the 3 pieces of interaction that we could ever want. Next turn, they should concede, most likely. They would possibly run an out in the form of a bounce spell, the Go on an Adventure. Although with Spellskite, that out no longer works. So we're going to crack. Urza's Mine, Power Plant, Mine. Okay. So we're going to start off with Chalice. Okay. Well, we're off to game 2 then. Opponent does not know that we are not on Etron. That is extremely relevant. Torpor Orb is a match or a card that is absolutely coming in. All is Dust is another card that I would like to consider, although I do not know if I want to bring it in quite yet. Relic of Progenitus is very good. Pithing Needle, not as good. Nor is Sorcerous Spyglass. And nor is Ratchet Bomb. I may cut the Ratchet Bombs. I do think I'm going to cut the Ratchet Bombs. Ratchet Bomb is just going to take too long to be able to take anything out. And I want to have all of the bomb cards available to me to be able to find interaction against our opponent very quickly. So that's how we're going to board. Our hand is interesting. It's a slow hand, but it does allow us to All is Dust. As early as turn 4, I believe. Is turn 4 too slow? On the draw, it may be. I'm going to keep, or rather mulligan, and hope to find something better. Gemstone Caverns is going to accelerate our mana to such an extent that we're going to be able to deal with our opponent, whatever they're doing. So what are we going to bottom, and what are we going to exile? Elixir of Immortality is probably not relevant. I'm absolutely going to be keeping these 2. It's a matter of Inventors Fair versus Island. I think Island is going to be what I exile. I'm going to put Elixir on the bottom so we can tutor it at some point. I'm going to do that. Exile. Opponent probably knows at this point that something is up. We're probably not Etron. It's a good draw. Our draw lines up very well against them. That being said, they could have the Evoke card whose name escapes me at the moment, that destroys artifacts. That would be good into this right here. Opponent gives it to us, so we're going to Ensnaring Bridge. I don't see a reason not to. We can always redirect to Spellskite. Okay. Opponent is looking to most likely play a turn 3 or 4 Living End. Fantastic draw here. Another Ensnaring Bridge gives us more protection. And we are now going to start gaining life off of Inventors Fair. Drawing the second Inventors Fair is a little bit unfortunate, as it is a Welcome back. We are in game. Ensnaring Bridge gives us more protection. Foundation Breaker. We did expect this. Now, do we let this resolve? I do believe we don't let this resolve and we change it to Spellskite, because it will be in our graveyard and a Living End would then allow us to negate the next Foundation Breaker from the graveyard. So I am going to redirect this. Third Ensnaring Bridge. Okay, so we have two options here. We could we can float mana, play Inventors Fair, crack Inventors Fair. We cannot crack Inventors Fair because we only have 2 artifacts. I was mistaken. So we're going to play Ensnaring Bridge number 3. That is, every Ensnaring Bridge in our deck is now on the field. The other one is in our Wishboard. Opponent is probably not happy about this. Something of note is they have not been F6ing. They might have Force of Negation. They pass. Urza's Tower. It's a good card. We are going to pass back to them. And now we can Inventors Fair for 2 options. We can either get Torpor Orb to protect our bridges, or we can get a Relic of Progenitus to slow them down. I don't think that slowing them down is going to be good because they have a full grip. I do think that going for the Torpor Orb lock is the way to go. The only card that would break out of that lock is Brazen Borrower, followed by more Foundation Breakers to kill our Ensnaring Bridges. I believe that is the only card that they would be running in this situation that could help. So I am going to get Torpor Orb. If they Force of Negation us, I'm okay with that because we have another Inventors Fair. And hopefully we're going to be able to overwhelm the counter magic that they have in their hand. Living End does not run very much counter magic, and it is typically just in the form of Force of Negation. So I am optimistic about our chances to get something through. Mystic Forge. This is a good draw if we are not able to land our Torpor Orb. So we're going to try it. Okay, Violent Outburst. So they decide that they have to go now. So a card that would hurt us here, and by hurt I mean kill, would be Echoing Truth, because we do have 3 Ensnaring Bridges. So we're going to hope for no Echoing Truth. I don't believe that is a common card run in Living End. Maybe they decided that they had to get their Foundation Breaker trigger off before they could no longer. Force of Vigor. It's a good start for them. Do they have the last removal? It must be a Force of Vigor or Brazen Borrower. Okay. Foundation Breaker does not work here. Torpor Orb resolved. Opponent is going to be looking for the rest of their outs. Expedition Map is a great draw. Mine Power Plant. We've made Tron. Chalice for 2. Does Chalice on 2 stop Brazen Borrower? That is an interesting question. Give me one moment. I do believe it does stop Chalice. Or Chalice does stop Brazen Borrower. The petty theft option. So I do think that I'm going to be playing this either on 0 or on 2. On 0 would be to get more draws. On 2 would be to stop the petty theft, which is one of their outs. That would leave only Force of Vigor left in their deck. Otherwise, ways that they can beat us would be through one of the two, in which case we need Spellskite or Welding Jar. I think I'm going to stick with what I have rather than leave it up to chance. We're going to exile the second Mystic Forge. Karn is a great draw for next turn. Opponent is digging, looking for their out. We get to draw our Karn. Let's see if opponent has counter magic. Opponent does not have counter magic. We have a few options here, of which I am very fond of Welding Jar. I think that Welding Jar is going to be our best way to shut off Force of Vigor. Force of Vigor being their only out at in this situation. If this does not resolve, we can always Inventors Fair to get another one. Okay. I do believe that opponent made a mistake here. Because we can always just Inventors Fair for another one. So that's okay. I'm going to let that resolve. We're going to crack for an Ensnaring Bridge we don't own in our deck. Right. Are we dead here? If we grab Spellskite, we are extremely dead, I believe. Yes, we are dead. Okay. On to game 3. I'm going to keep the sideboard the same. Unfortunately, I lost track of how many bridges we had in our deck. Be on the play. 2 chalices. Now, this hand is interesting. It is extremely strong, provided our opponent doesn't have Force of Vigor. If our opponent has Force of Vigor, we're going to be in trouble. And we would also need to draw another land. This is a 1-land hand. Torpor Orb is a great follow-up, but I don't think that this hand has enough legs to keep. I don't think it's strong enough. Now, this hand is looking much better. We're going to keep bottom all is dust because we want both of our Spellskites. And pass. I'm going to lead on Spellskite. Okay, Urza's Tower. We did get Natural Tron. Our hand is looking much better now that we do have access to All Is Dust. This does give us an extra turn, or multiple. Foundation Breaker, of course. Another All Is Dust. We now have access to Spellskite Torpor Orb. So we now have 2 turns or more to buy once they decide to pull the trigger, which is fantastic. We would like to start putting a clock on them, if possible, with an Urza Saga. We would like to force them to Living End. Right on cue. Foundation Breaker does kill Urza Saga. Okay. So they do this at instant speed. Living End, yep. I do not believe we're dead. Yep, they can only do 17 to us as of the moment. Violent Outburst would be lethal. So I do think that we have to block something. Now, if they're going to Violent Outburst, let's see. 8, 12, 15, 18. So we can block here to force the Violent Outburst. Or 19 if we block here and with Violent Outburst, Spellskite lives. That might be the way we go. Yep. So we're going to block here. Okay. Going to Chalice on 0 first. See if they counter. Looks like they're F6'd. They're not F6'd. Force of Negation. Bad beats. Okay, well, it looks like our opponent has got us. So that was a good game. Unfortunately, we didn't see a Force of Negation until the very end when it mattered. I do not think that keeping that first hand would have been good. It may have lined up well into their hand. I don't think it was correct, though. So we'll be back for match number 4. Okay, we're back for round number 4. This hand is extremely bad. We're going to mulligan. And this hand is not looking wonderful either. I'm probably going to powder and bottom in Urza's Tower. This hand is still not wonderful, but I'm going to keep because we are on the draw. And unfortunately, we don't have much say in the matter.
And for extra mill, we have Karn.
Our opponent is on Tron. We don't know if they are on blue or mono green Tron, or if they are on E-Tron or the mirror. They could be on the mirror. We will see. Regardless, I do think that most likely we're going to want to Chalice on 1. Chalice on 1 does hurt green Tron. It is green Tron. But unfortunately, this matchup is not very good. Mm-hmm. So we have the option of Spellskite plus Relic of Progenitus, knowing that they're going to get Tron next turn, and are most likely... Okay, so they do have 0 cards in hand. They may or may not draw a bomb. If they do draw a bomb, we would want Spellskite out on the field. If they don't, then we would want Relic to be able to draw into something relevant. I'm going to play Spellskite to play around it, because playing Relic of Progenitus gets countered anyway. Sometimes you punt. It has been a long time since I've been able to play Chalice in Modern. The upside of using that mana is Chalice is most likely not going away anytime soon, regardless. And then for Ensnaring Bridge, it gives us 1 less card in hand. So I don't think I want to play this Ensnaring Bridge until they force us to, because an Urza Saga would help put the pressure on. Opponent most likely is getting Blast Zone. Or Eldrazi. No. Another Urza's Terror. Okay. Okay. Opponent drawing nothing of relevance. Chalice. Chalice on what would be relevant? I can put it on 2. Although I do think that hurts us more than it hurts our opponent. Let's take a look. Yes, it is going to hurt us a lot more than it's going to hurt them in this situation. Putting it on 1 may be a viable play to prevent our opponent from getting a Ancient Stirrings. and using Karn to kill our Chalice to be able to play Ancient Stirrings. So I do think that's what I'm going to do here. Sanctum of Ugin. That's what I was expecting last turn. Still no draw. And we do get Tron. This is fantastic news. This does mean we get to Inventors Fair for something. Now, what we get is definitely a toss-up. I'm not entirely sure what we're going to get yet. It could be Mystic Forge. Mystic Forge would be a great way to start our snowball. Another option would be to get Sorcerous Spyglass and to name something like Karn. But I do think that Mystic Forge is the way that we need to start getting the ball rolling on this game. So I'm going to do that. We do have a Karn. So next turn, we're going to be able to hopefully turn them off of Tron. The turn after, actually. Because we would have to downtick to get Liquimetal Coating and then strip mine them. So we are 2 turns away from turning off Tron. They did draw something. They drew their own Karn. Is this going to hurt us? I don't believe this is going to hurt us very much. What we can do here is if he downticks, I guess I suppose it depends on what our opponent gets. Something such as Liquimetal Coating would not be very good, because it is turning off a single land. We lose that mana. We do draw Karn. So now what we get to do is we get to uptick our Mystic Forge and kill the Karn. We're now going to play Spellskite. Another Mystic Forge on top. And this game is looking very heavily in our favor at this moment. If our opponent doesn't draw something relevant, okay, Wormcoil Engine is not looking to do it. So this turn we can get Possessed Portal. I do believe we have the mana for it. Let me check. 1, 2, 4, 6, 9. We do have enough for Possessed Portal. They get 1 attack, but they haven't drawn anything relevant. And we have Mystic Forge in order to break parity. So I do believe that Possessed Portal is going to win this game for us. Going to sacrifice Chalice. Chalice is not very relevant at the moment. Opponent swings at Karn. We're going to block. And step. We land in Ensnaring Bridge. We're now going to get our Liquimetal Coating. This is to be able to speed up the game marginally. So we have won this game. It is a matter of just... Okay. Opponent concedes. They know we have it. All this dust is not very good here. That being said, we do not have very many good cards for the matchup. Kozilek is definitely in for consideration. Chalice is most likely going to stay. Ratchet Bomb is not something I like unless we can power it out early, nor is Elixir of Immortality. I do believe that this is a very low sideboarding matchup. Crucible is the only thing that I would even consider bringing in, other than Kozilek. And I don't believe that it's going to be relevant in this situation. Maybe to power out some Urza Sagas to pressure them. That may be the way to go. It might be worth a shot. So I'm going to board out a Ratchet Bomb for it. Another consideration is that Torpor Orb turns off their Kozilek. Okay. This hand is very poor. I do believe I'm going to powder this. We do lose 2 Mystic Forges and a Karn. This hurts, but we do have Karn to be able to search for these if we'd like. So I do think I'm going to Serum Powder. This hand is looking very aggressive, and I'm a fan of it. I am absolutely a fan of being able to pressure them. We have turn 1 Expedition Map. Turn 2 Urza Saga into Sorcerous Spyglass, which can shut off something of theirs. It really depends on what they've got. Expedition Map. No surprises. We aren't going to show them that we have Island quite yet. They have turn 3 Tron. Saga. Let's see if they're F6'd. Hopefully they're not. They're not. Good job, opponent. Oblivion Stone. Oblivion Stone is definitely one of their outs here. I do think that I'm going to name it. Ancient Stirrings is a scary card. But they may not find something, and even if we did name something that wasn't Oblivion Stone, they could always just blow it up. And they also only have green mana through Chromatic Star. So, Chromatic Star, they use the plant. They have 2 mystery cards now. Karn. Liquimetal Coating. Yep. We are looking to be in a bit of trouble here, I believe. The reason being that our opponent is going to strip mine us. I do think that I'm supposed to Urza Saga and pass the turn. This does allow us to make a token. So we are going to respond to their Liquimetal Coating by making a token. And next turn, we might be able to land our own Karn. So our situation is not quite as dire as we at first thought. Of course, if they decide to strip mine us, Karn isn't going to be an option. But we can start making more Urza Saga tokens. Opponent in the tank. Expedition map. Opponent cracks. Finding either Urza's Tower or Sanctum of Ugin. Forest, okay. For the Ancient Strengths. Thragtusk. Okay. That is an interesting card. So they have Oblivion Stone Ancient Strengths in hand. They gain 5. We're going to respond. They strip mine us. We're left with an interesting set of options here. So we could play land, Serum Powder, which, if they strip mine us again, will allow us to play Karn and stop the strip mines. Or we can Urza Saga, make a token, and try and overpower this Karn by force. Knowing that they have Ancient Strengths in hand for another card, another bomb. We do not have any protection. I do think it's correct here to actually try and force through with the construct. So this is a 4/4 at the moment, once we activate. Meaning opponent is forced to block. They trade, and then we have a 3/3. Next turn, we gain a 4/4, and they must block again. No, they cannot block. We cannot kill Karn if they do that. So I don't think it's correct to attack here. Okay, forcing us to make a construct. Now, opponent must play some sort of creature, or else Karn is going to die. Ancient Strengths. Worm Coil is one of the only cards here that will be able to do that. Hopefully they do not find it. They find an Urza's Tower. Good, they whiffed. That is extremely good for us. Karn liberated. They did not whiff. Yes. So it is looking like this game's pretty locked up. We're probably going to be moving on to game 3 then. So, Welding Jar. This would have been helpful before. It cannot be activated. Never mind. Let's see. No, it is looking like this game is locked up. So we aren't going to give them any more information. We're going to go on to game 3. So we're going to not sideboard at all. I do think that the way we sideboarded was correct. We're going to keep it that way. On the play. We do not have Tron. We're close to Tron, but we also do not have anything of relevance here. We have a Karn. An early Karn is relevant, but we cannot beat turn 3 Tron with this hand. I do not think that this is a keep. So I'm going to mulligan. This is an interesting hand for sure. Ratchet Bomb, not very helpful. Gemstone Caverns is not very useful since we are on the play. I do like the Urza Saga, but I don't think that this is a keepable hand, and I do think that I want to powder this. That being said, we are either going to be keeping the Urza Saga or the Urza's Tower to either get Tron or to pressure them further. I'm going to take the Urza's Tower, I think. I think that would be the correct play, to try and get Tron. Not a very good hand. If we had 2 lands, this would be a keepable hand. Unfortunately, it is not. And this we are going to have to keep. So we're going to bottom Ratchet Bomb. I do believe that Spellskite here is going to be our bottom, because we want to be able to Karn plus something else. Because we do have turn 3 Tron with this hand. So we're going to Expedition Map. Okay, opponent may or may not have turn 3 Tron. We could Urza Saga to try and get more interaction and a clock going, but I do think that turn 3 Tron is going to be better here. Opponent likely going to cast Ancient Stirrings. They do. Their hand is not ideal. They get an Urza's Tower. Okay. And Chromatic Star. We're going to get our Power Plant. We do get our Karn before they do. I am going to get Liquimetal Coating. The reason being is I'm going to stop in their upkeep and I'm going to Karn, or I'm going to coating their tower and knock them off of some mana. So even if they do hit Tron, they only have 4. If they do not find a way to squeeze out, then they have lost. They do concede. So fortunately, we made it through. We were able to power out turn 3 Tron and outspeed green Tron. So that'll be it for match number 4. We'll see you in the 5th. All right, we are on the final match of this league. Hopefully we can finish it out strong. We are on the play. This hand is looking fairly strong, all things considered. We do have a Tron land to start, as well as Urza Saga and Chalice of the Void. They are not playing a Lurrus deck. And then we also have Mystic Forge to start powering things out. I think I'm going to keep this and see how it goes. This is more of an experimental hand. It does have a game plan, though the game plan is not very intuitive. We do have the option of playing a Chalice on 0. I don't think that's going to be what we want to do. Opponent plays a Dark Slick Shores. So they are on food, which does mean that we're going to want to Chalice on 0, Chalice on 1. That is going to shut off most of their deck. So we're going to Chalice on 0. There's a Saga. Chalice on 1. And they should be able to, or unable to, do too much at this moment. They can still Emery grind us, and they can still make construct tokens, as well as play Urza. But they also have no outs to bridge in the first game. So we do get through. Now we could name Sorcerous Spyglass, or we could name Underworld Cookbook with Sorcerous Spyglass, but I do think getting the token is going to be a little bit better here. Okay. Opponent is going to play a top monitor. Asmaran. Okay. That does not work, my dear friend. Opponent is thinking about whether he should attack. I would not recommend it. They do not. We get our Urza Saga. And we have the option to get a Karn. I do like this Karn. That being said, they could Metallic Rebuke it, or Bone Shards. Actually, Bone Shards is 1 CMC, so they cannot do that. So they could Metallic Rebuke, but if they do Metallic Rebuke, they don't have much of a backup plan. In hindsight, I don't have a land. So we're going to grab, most likely, Pithing Needle. We could grab an Expedition map to make up for our mistake and grab a land to play Sorcerous Spyglass. I do think that's going to be our play. So we're going to do this. That was a terrible blunder on my part. I do think that getting Tron is going to be helpful here. They do Metallic Rebuke. It looks like this did work out in our favor then, as we are going to be able to Karn as soon as we draw a land. I'm going to swing. Okay. Now they can play Urza this turn. Urza would be somewhat scary. Okay, Thought Monitor. They draw 2. Urza Saga is definitely going to be a threat here. We are absolutely going to need a bridge very soon. They don't do much else. We do not get our land. So I'm going to play Serum Powder. We will be able to get our bridge in hand at least next turn, if they don't have another Metallic Rebuke. As far as I'm aware, they only run 1 in the main, or 2 in the main, rather. Opponent does block. I suppose that was a mistake on my part. This does allow them to draw 2 more. So I will absolutely keep that in mind for next time. Yep, Thought Monitor. Yep, that was absolutely a mistake on my part. I will take responsibility. So we do get access to Karn, and we also have Tron. So this is very good for us. This does mean that at this point we can immediately play Ensnaring Bridge, and our opponent should have no outs to this. Okay. So our opponent should be off of it at this point. Unless they have boarded in some form of way to actually deal with this lock. Or have something in the main board. A bounce effect. But I do believe that our opponent is in trouble here. Okay. Opponent makes a construct. Construct cannot attack. They grab either Spell Bomb and realize that they cannot beat Bridge. Alright, So for sideboarding, we're absolutely going to want our Grafdigger's Cage. All Is Dust is going to be very helpful as well. And I do believe that Torpor Orb is going to be useful. I don't think that it's worth boarding in all three. I think that 2 at the most would be the best case scenario. It really depends on what we want to board out. So let's put this in the maybe, and we'll decide from there. So Pithing Needle is okay. We can fetch it with our Urza Saga. That being said, Sorcerous Spyglass is not as great. The 2 cards that are very relevant in this matchup are going to be Emery, Urza Saga, and the Cookbook. Those are the 3. Of course, one of them overlaps, so it might be smart to keep it in. I think All Is Dust is not nearly as good as I think it is because of Construct tokens being their main win con. Spellskite is wonderful. Relic of Progenitus is not amazing. It's okay. I think I would rather have Relic over Sorcerous Spyglass, so that's what I'm going to board out. I'm going to trim on a Ratchet Bomb. And trim on a Mystic Forge. We do want to keep our curve a little bit lower. That's how we're going to board. Okay, so this hand is good provided we can draw a land in the next 2 turns. Can we draw a land in the next 2 turns? I don't know. If we can, this hand is fantastic. I think the upside of keeping this outweighs the downside, because even on the case, or in the case, that we do not draw a land in the next 2 turns, we also will have a Grafdigger's Cage and Chalice in play. So I'm going to keep this. It might be a mistake. I do think that trying to have a massive upside is going to be the way to go while we are a game ahead. Opponent thought seizes us. They're most likely going to be taking one of these 3. Chalice is what I'm expecting. If they don't take Chalice, that signals to me that they either do not have Asmo or do not have a discard outlet in their hand. And it also means I should probably Chalice on 1 as opposed to 0. Okay, opponent most likely has an Asmo. Going to Inventors Fair. I'm going to Expedition Map to try and get our 3rd land drop if we get a 2nd. No land, unfortunately. Although opponent isn't doing all that much with the mana they have, unless they're doing something on our end step. They are. They do abrade our Grafdigger's Cage. That was fairly telegraphed, considering they shocked in the Steam Vents. They are playing the Springleaf Drum version. They do have Emery. No lands, once again. I do think that the upside of the hand outweighs the downsides. Once again, I do think that I was supposed to try and draw land here. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, but maybe we'll be able to come back from this. And if not, we always have game 3. Opponent put us on a 20-turn clock. We did draw the land. I do think that getting a Tron land is going to be better than Urza Saga at this point, because we do have a fairly full hand and a Karn we would like to get out at some point. Double bubble, as to be expected. As far as I'm aware, this list only runs 2 Abrades, so they are now out of 1, which is very helpful. So we have a tower. We're going to get a mine. Urza Saga. So we do have Tron next turn. I do think that getting Tron next turn is going to be our best option. The worst scenario here would be that they strip our Karn from hand. But we do have access to 8 mana, meaning if they counter our Karn, we can Mystic Forge. Double bobble once again. No surprises here. Hopefully, if we get to land Karn, we'll be able to turn off their engine. Does not shock. They do not have an Urza. It's very helpful. And they pass. Okay. We're going to get a power plant. So we could try and bait their Metallic Rebuke by playing Mystic Forge first. I do think that that is going to be what I'm going to try. Mishra's Bobble. Looking for something. Resolves. Now we could try and jam a Karn. We do know that they are looking to counterspell something. It's most likely that they are. So I'm actually going to play out the Spellskite. Second Karn on top is very good here. So now we can overload their mana by jamming 2 Karns and force it to resolve next turn. And I don't know if I'm going to take up Ratchet Bomb yet. Karnstruct tokens are... Okay, here's the Rebuke. So we are going to be able to resolve a Karn next turn. I may have been able to sneak through a Karn if I just spent the 7 mana on it. But I don't know if that's correct, because I won't be able to get anything out of it. I do like getting Spellskite on the field. We have seemed to recover quite well, considering we spent the first 3 turns of our game not drawing any lands. Okay, opponent concedes. They decided that they didn't want to handle it. So I think that Mud performed extremely well this league. Our only losses were either to some bad beats and very close calls. Scape Shift, drawing the Bring to Light was what saved them, and then as well as the Living End drawing into their counter spell. Those were the only 2 real situations where we were set to lose. We did have a close game 2 with Jund. We almost timed out, although that was more of user error than anything on the deck's part. So I am extremely happy with how this performed. I am absolutely liking our Serum Powder. I think that Serum Powder is actually, it performed very well for us. It let us mulligan aggressively in matchups where we needed it, in a format where there are a lot of matchups that need it. There are a lot of very quick matchups that are linear, and we need a very specific form of interaction against them, and Serum Powder lets us find that. I am liking it a lot, and I'm definitely going to be doing more testing in the future. I didn't love the Sorcerous Spyglass in the main. I think it was okay. I also think that it may be worth putting Torpor Orb in the main instead. That may be better, and I would like to try that at some point as well. Otherwise, Relic of Progenitus worked well, and Elixir of Immortality didn't do much for us this league, although we did not face very much aggro or mill. So I do think that its limited use was not found here. I think that Shadow Spear in this league would have been better, but I would still have to do more testing to know whether it would be a better card overall. And with that, that's been our league. So I'd like to thank you all for watching, and have a wonderful day.